Right. So Hull FC, 22-22 earlier. I think it's six games since I last beat you. What do you make of Hull FC this season?
Well, I think obviously they've pinched a lot of our players and brought a lot of experience to them, and they're playing a nice style of rugby. And the first quarter of the season, I think they were right on. And once the season gets going, obviously you've got to make sure you keep your consistency. So they've been in and out of consistency, but when they're on, they're a very difficult team to beat.
And you mentioned some of your past players. Do you expect them to raise the game because they're back here? Where they were a couple of years back.
Yeah, I think so, and I know they know what it's like here. It's great facilities and ground to play at, so they'll look forward to that. I think they were unlucky to win last week. I felt they played well enough to win. So our former captain coming back to the fans, I think they'll probably make him welcome with open arms as well. And but more importantly for us, we're coming off the back of a loss too, and not ideal for us. But like I said after that game, I was really happy with some of the things I saw. I've been waiting all year to see that, and that was the first instance that we did some things there that I'm really looking forward to now moving forward with the rest of the season.
Well, you mentioned that. So what have you been doing this week then to try and make sure you harness that energy from last week and take it into Thursday night's game?
Well, training-wise, it's been difficult since the Challenge Cup. We went into a 5-day turnaround and then into a 6-day turnaround. So you don't get much time to train considering it's short turnarounds and you need to save the legs really and the load. So it's been more about us and identifying the identity that we want to be as a club, and we worked really hard on that, but there were some good signs last week, and the focus this week is been on like the big game sort of mentality. So I'm excited about hopefully that will roll into this week and then continue for the rest of the year.
Well, you obviously a couple of injuries, not least David Armstrong, but of course Gaz O'Brien. I mean, what is the situation with Gaz O'Brien now and David Armstrong?
Well, Gaz O'Brien failed the HIA, so he's had a couple in recent times. So he'll be seeing a specialist probably tomorrow or early next week. Obviously, he's going to miss this week just through the time off of failing a HIA. So we'll make a call on that early next week, but he'll probably won't play for a few weeks, I would presume. The other one is Davey Armstrong. That was probably 50-50 chance of playing this week, but Davey's had a lot of niggly injuries back to back, and we've made him play, and that hasn't helped the cause, so we just need him to get right, so that'll be probably one more week. The other one that comes into consideration is Frankie Holton, which we'll make a decision on game day. Keenan Brand as well will probably come into consideration. Pretty excited about that because he was playing some good rugby before he left, so a few of those players will make a call late in the week.
Well, Gaz O'Brien's head impact or head injury assessment, and it's the third of the campaign. Does that leave you vulnerable at halfback, and what are you trying to do to alleviate that and strengthen in that area?
Obviously, we'll play Ben McNamara there if that's the way we decide to go this week, next week, and every other week moving forward. Ben's obviously a young player, and I've had a lot of time spent with Ben as a coach, and I know what he's capable of doing. Had a couple of really influential touches last week against Wigan, so we'll persist with that. But it is a position that we'll look at strengthening as we go along through the season as well. There's no doubt that Gaz will have some time off, so it's something as a club that we'll take a look at closely in the next week or two and see what we need to do.
But have you got room within the salary cap or whatever to actually strengthen should you find the right player?
Yeah, we do. We do. Pretty excited about that. As I've always said during the season and every year, we're a club that have always got our eyes and ears open to players that are interested in coming to the club, and we make our decisions based off the future. And the last 12 months have certainly been looking at players that are a little bit younger that can bring us some X factor. So we'll keep our eyes out as we've always done, and we'll do now moving forward in the next couple of weeks.
Obviously, Chris Chester's been gone a couple of weeks now. You said at the time you'd probably taken it all on board yourself. What is the situation now? Are you doing that, or are you going to bring somebody else into that role?
No, as we currently sit, the communications are through Neil Jukes, myself, and Derek. I think that's working pretty good. I'm excited for what lays ahead in that area for us as well, as in the recruitment and the retention. I think it's an area that we've pretty much had a grip on anyway. So we'll just power on with what we're doing.
So we're heading to the halfway stage, just another couple of games. What do you feel about your assessment of the season that you've had so far then?
Oh, yeah, I think with so many new faces in the season, it was always going to take a little bit of time to find a rhythm and groove. And I've been quite vocal in the media that the rugby that I've seen hasn't quite got to where we need it to get to, and that's okay. I understand, and we understand that takes time. But I got to see a lot more of it last week, which is the positive sign moving forward. So I think we're sitting outright third at this part, coming up to the halfway part of the season. If we can turn the halfway part of the season in third spot, I think it'll give us a really good second half of the year to get our rhythm that we're working so hard to find. And I think it's not too far away. So when it does come, I think we'll go to another level as a club, and that's what I'm excited most about. We brought these players in to be able to do that. And like first year, I think we finished fifth. Second year, back in Super League, we finished fifth, but won an away. First semi-final we won away in Super League in ever last year, so we finished fourth technically. So a home semi-final this year would be a step up from last year, and the progression moving forward to the trajectory that we're looking for. So that would probably be the goal moving forward, is top four for this year.
Well, thanks very much, Lammy. I'll see you on Thursday.
No worries, Trev. I'll see you there, mate.
Hi, Lammy. Hope you well.
Ben, good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just to start with, on Gaz O'Brien, is there a fear that this could be it for Gaz? Because we know he's had so many head knocks in such a short space of time, and at his age, and maybe he's in the final year of his career anyway.
Oh, look, I don't think so at this point, but it's always things, we need to put Gaz's health first and foremost, and I think he's down there trying to play for next week. That's the tough kid that we have there, or player that we have. Not a kid anymore, obviously, but he's very influential in the way we play. He wants to keep playing, so we'll deal with that week in, week out as it goes along. But at this point in time, he's out this week. You'll see a specialist, and off the back of that, we can make some decisions moving forward.
I think just touching on Josh Charnley now, I think he's still one try away from 250 in Super League alone. Just talk to me about Josh and the impact he's had on the club since he arrived midway through 2022.
Yeah, I think Josh came in 2022 when we were in Championship and didn't play in those first couple of weeks and part of that season. But we had communication to him about his role here at the club, and I'm one of those coaches that backed the players, and the players that were playing in front of Josh were doing a great job. And so Josh came in, but just his presence, I've got a big focus on pre-seasons, and I want to see the players develop through that pre-season, but show us by your actions. And Josh has always been the top 1, 2 or 3 players in the time that he's been here, and he's brought us a lot of experience, champion bloke, but also finished some great tries in that time leading up to this. So, where Josh goes to after this year at the moment as a club, we'll make that decision in the near future. But I feel that the issue is we've got so many good outside backs coming through too, with the likes of Bailey Hodgson, Keenan Brand's now in the picture. There's also Darnell McIntosh that we've got to fit in there, and then there's young players such as AJ Towers, who I think is a Super League player and the future. So, a lot to decide as a club, but for Josh and his career so far has been incredible. So, he's a big part of what we do.
What have those discussions looked like so far? Have you basically said what you've just said to us to Josh and his representatives?
I think Josh knows that he's off contract, and it's a long season ahead of us. Like I said, I want to play all of those players and make sure that we make the right decisions. We've rotated that back 5 probably more than any other club, and I talked earlier on about us not hitting our straps yet as a team. I don't think for 2 weeks in a row if we had the same team. We've had 4 or 5 changes every single week, and some by having our hands tied, where we've just had to pick the players that were available. But moving forward, I've spoken to our squad about the fact that I need to probably change positions every now and then and give people the opportunity to hold down a spot, something we've never had at this club where there's pressure on positions. But certainly for our back five, that's the situation at the moment. So there's pressure on everyone to hold their spots. Davey Armstrong at fullback with Bailey Hodgson playing, and Brand on the right for Darnell McIntosh. Then there's AJ Towers for Josh Charnley. So no one's guaranteed a spot there, and things will change in that area, as you'll see tomorrow moving forward.
Cheers, Tommy. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, Ben.
I'll jump in for a few. Hi, Adrian. Hope you're
Josh,
well.
Good. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good.
You mentioned John Asiata earlier. I imagine you're not surprised at how much of an immediate impact he's had on Hull, and as you say, hoping that the fans welcome him for what he did at Leigh this week.
Yeah, I think they will. They're very supportive here, and they understand what John did for us when he was here, along with all the other players who were involved with that time earlier on the transition back up into Super League. So, I also know that John's taken our style that we play here up there. A lot of the rugby you watch them play is very similar to how we play. So, and that's fine as well. They've got some really good individual players there. They've got a nice balance of senior players as well. And I think the last month of rugby, 6 weeks for them, hasn't been ideal, but they're not far away.
And just on one of your players, I think Cartwright praised him this week, having coached him in the NRL. Tessie New, have you been happy with the way that he started to life in Super League?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be a superstar. But having said that, him like Armstrong have had niggly injuries during the start of the season, haven't been able to build week on week out repetitions on the field, and I think once we get that, I think in the next month to 6 weeks, I think we could be playing our best rugby. So, and we need to do that too with some big games coming up. So, I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited about that. Tessie New is a beast, and he's loving his time here. He understands how it works now. So, the more game time he gets, I think the better we're going to be as a club.
He looks like he's watching us. Looks like he's unbelievably strong and prepared to do the hard work as well, isn't he?
Yeah, there's parts in his game he needs to keep working on, which he's aware of, but he's a champion guy, popular with the players, and he does all of his he leads by his actions more than anything. So, but we're forever trying to get every single player better. I mean, that's my role as coach is to bring players here that have got potential and develop them so that player that we desire. And I think we've done that probably as good, if not better than any other club, in the sense of bringing unknowns to us and then everyone else paying overs to get them out of the club to sign them.
Great stuff. Thanks, Adrian. Best luck this week.
Thank you, mate.
Hi, Lammy. Just
Good.
want to build on that. We're talking about John Asiata. Just want to ask about Zach Hardaker and how you think he's gone at Hull FC, because I know Hull FC are very happy with what they've seen from him so far.
I think Zach's just the ultimate competitor, and when you're trying to change a culture of a club, Hull did struggle the last year or 2 years, and just his on-field competitiveness is as good as any in the game. And I think he's playing out of position at the moment in the back row. I think we played him here a couple of times, which has probably given them some indication that he can play there, and I think he's done a pretty good job. So he's one of those guys that is still like has a child mentality where when he crosses that white line, he's going to have fun and he'll do whatever it takes to win. So we've got to deal with him tomorrow night too. He is a handful, and when he's confident, he's certainly a good player.
Yeah, I was going to ask about his position. Do you think back row might be what his future holds?
Yeah, I think so. I thought about that when I had him at Wigan as well, playing him in the back row there, but we didn't get too many opportunities to do that. But we did here, and he did a really good job. I think in the semi-finals last year against Salford at Salford, come off the bench and he played, I think it was nearly 75 minutes in that back row, and he did a great job. So uncharacteristic for him to go in there, but like I said, he's a rugby player. He has that mentality of a child where I'm going to go out and have fun and do whatever it takes to win. So, they've certainly got an asset in him.
Yeah, and a chance for Benny Mack tomorrow night against his old club. How how big a chance is that, and how pumped do you think he will be to impress against the Black and Whites?
Yeah, it's interesting because at the times that he has started for us, every time we play Hull, he seems to play and start, and has always done a reasonably good job. So he's obviously loves that too, being from there, and I think he's got a really big role to play for us tomorrow night. So we've been working hard on Ben and the way that his game has evolved, and there's still a lot of work to do, which we're prepared to put in. So looking forward to him playing again, starting against Hull FC.
Thanks, mate. Cheers for that.
Thanks, Will.
Hi, Adrian. How you doing?
Hey, Cal. Okay.
Yeah, good. Thank you. In recent years, you've had a lot of turnover at the end of the season. Are you hoping for less of that this time around?
Yeah, I think so. There's always been a plan behind it, Callum. There's been a plan from the first day that I've got here till now, and it's been implemented just about perfectly along the way, and the plan still goes for another 2 or 3 years in the sense of getting the team to the exact position we want them to be before that comes to an end. When you look at the top 2 or 3 teams, there's usually minimal movement in there. When they're successful in the season, there's not many players that move on, so you get the repetitions and you get the players understanding what the identity of the club is and the way you want to play. That's taken us a lot of time at the start of this year to get, but I'm excited about that, and hopefully there'll be minimal changes next year, albeit there'll still be 4 or 5, but those numbers are coming down. I think it was 14 and then 13 and then 12. So it's something that we're aware of. We do have a clarity on the path and players and group that we want, and we're not going to stop for anyone on that. So there'll still be some changes, but for the right reasons.
And moving forward into next season, what position would you perhaps likely to strengthen the most?
There's probably halfback at the moment. We were talking about Gaz earlier on. I've had conversations with Gaz about what the future holds here, but probably a goal kick and half that can play on that right. We'll work closely together as a group and nail that, and then just other positions where I feel we can get some pressure on at the moment. I think our squad's not too far away from where it needs to be. There's probably 2 or 3 little tweaks that we can work on to get to where we are, and then it's game on for us.